Can you tell me a little bit about XFrame?
Yeah, XFrame is a demountable, prefabricated modular building system. It's made of engineered plywood parts that click together to form panels, and the panels can be demounted and changed over time. Yeah.
Can you please explain how you came up with this system and this product?
Yeah, so XFrame came from some research about how to create spaces that could be more effectively changed, how to reduce building waste essentially. One of the big challenges, particularly in commercial fit-outs, retail fit-outs, is that they only last for 3 to 5 years and then they're all demolished. The logic behind the panel is that it's a self-brace structure, so it's got its own strength, its own bracing. That means that when you bring it into a building site, you know exactly the dimensions of it, it's really reliable, and it can join together to form big wall systems that are all dimensionally very stable. So that explains the self-braced nature of it. That also means that when we form lining systems in different layers, everything's in exactly the same place, so we can standardize all of the lining materials that go into it.
What type of projects has this been used in?
So the product's been used in retail banking quite extensively. So we do both the meeting room structures, the ATM structures, and bunkers, so where cash is stored. That'll be front of house and back of house. So we do customer consultation spaces with enclosed lids and quite acoustically sealed, but also back of house, whether that's like a breakout room or a staff room. The bunkers are really interesting because they also are made from the same kit of parts, but they have a security layer in them, sheet metal, to keep them basically secure in case of an event that someone tried to get in. We also do sort of standardized demountable partitions in typical office buildings. So if you're splitting up an office tenancy, we could do the partitions between that. That would be between the floor system and an overhead beam or a slab. We also do education spaces, makes sense for both students and staff offices, and collaboration spaces, breakout pods, that sort of thing.
Do you do residential?
We don't do residential at the moment. We are working on that. We think there's a demand for residential spaces that could be more easily adapted, particularly in multi-unit high-rise residential. So that would be things like studio apartments that could be converted into 1 or 2 bedroom apartments, or even turning office space into larger bedrooms. So we're working on a couple of sort of evolutions of the product that would make more sense in that market.
A question around circularity. So what government mandates are there in terms of this?
Yeah, so with sustainability becoming more important, there's requirements for businesses to report their carbon emissions. And so circularity and systems that can be reused fit into that really nicely, because over the life cycle of a tenancy, at the time of renovation or demolition, that product is essentially a positive emission, so it produces waste. And so what we can say to these companies is that they can have up to a 70% reduction in their CO2 emissions by choosing demountable systems. And that's both because at the time of specification, there's less emissions because it's timber, but also when you go to refit or change, you're not throwing that out. You're not having to buy new materials, so you can reuse those products so you don't have the emissions costs. And so as the compulsory emissions reporting continues to become more and more important, businesses that have very poor emissions profiles are going to be perceived as doing less good, basically. So that's purely from a reporting point of view. There's also sort of other do-good mandates like supply chain control and supply chain out of Australia, local manufacturing, that sort of stuff, where we can ensure that local materials are used, which really underpins the sustainability of the system.
So how do you report emissions?
Yes, very good question. We take the EPDs, the environmental product declarations that are given for the projects or for the products, and then we calculate the quantum of materials under that EPD that's in the project, and we report that to the customer. We then advise that their customer should seek independent consultancy advice if they wanted to use that towards a rating, whether that's for a Green Star or a NABERS rating. They should be checking that information. Our larger customers will also standardize the emissions reporting against the product that they're ordering, so they don't have to get every fit out certified, but they can actually go across the system and look at the kit of parts as to what their emissions are.
So what excites you about XFrame?
Seeing the product reused in real life is extremely satisfying and very exciting, because that's the product doing its job in the real world. So products actually going out, having high value of use for 3 to 4 years and then being reconfigured into something else at the end of that first life. We've seen a few ANZ branches now where the product has gone in a couple of years ago, the branch has closed down for whatever reason, and they can take that meeting room out, they've relocated it, stood it back up, and it's now just as much use as it was in the last place. No waste, no emissions, a great outcome for us and a great outcome for ANZ.